Welcome to the Week 2 Family Fantasy Feud Wrap-Up Show. My name is Winnie's My Forte, and this is my co-host, Councilman Among Boys.
Again this week, we will recap the weekly matchups, the hard luck losers and lucky winners, and highlight the top fantasy performances and free agents.
We will also be declaring the Bonehead Manager Move of the Week, celebrating the Manager of the Week, and looking forward to next week's matchups. So let's get started by looking at the matchups from Week 2.
There were a couple big blowouts this week, with Holy Rollers beating Winning Is My Forte by 55 points.
It was 54 points. Not that it matters.
Yeah, doesn't really. And Big Brick House 77 beating the Lucky Blues 129 to 85.
The Lake Show defeated Taking Suggestions to get his first win of the year, while Councilman Among Boys held off a late rally by Roddy White and the Dream Team to get the victory.
And in this week's Game of the Week, Big Dog in the House had no trouble beating last week's top manager, 49ers #1 Baby, who went from first to worst in points with the lowest score of all 10 teams this week.
Ooh. Scoring this week held true to form with the top 5 scoring teams winning their matchups, while the bottom 5 teams lost. So the hard luck loser was Taking Suggestions with 113 points, while Councilman Among Boys had another cheap win, totaling only 115 points. Nice.
A win's a win. Most of the top fantasy players from week 2 were benched on our rosters, with 3 of the top 4 fantasy players all sitting out this week after getting starts last week.
I bet there are a lot of managers second-guessing themselves this week.
Yeah, but Patrick reaped the rewards of keeping Victor Cruz in the lineup despite a shaky start last week, and Cruz delivered almost 40 points thanks to 179 receiving yards, 11 catches, and an 80-yard touchdown reception.
For the second week in a row, Taking Suggestions had the best bench player in the league. This week, after putting RG3 in her starting lineup, backup quarterback Eli Manning went bananas against her fiance's real-world football team. Eli exploded for 43 points.
That's more than half of 49ers #1 Baby's total points this week.
With 510 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, and 3 big plays.
It wasn't too bad for Monique because RG3 still had a strong game with 35 fantasy points.
And Serena doubted her own cousin, Hakeem Nicks, removing him from the lineup right before he scored 41 points.
She replaced Nicks with Randy Moss, who scored only 1.4 points.
She should have known the Knicks go hard.
Reggie Bush channeled his inner Trojan and went off for 40 fantasy points, thanks in large part to 172 rushing yards. So all the highlighted free agents from last week's show were picked up by managers during the week, but a new crop of talent emerged, led by Danny Amendola, getting 38 points on 15 receptions, including a big play bonus.
Andy Dalton had a strong game with 35 points from his quarterback position, while Dante Rosario had a meager game with 4 receptions, but 3 of them went for touchdowns.
And Ben Tate had a solid game with 2 touchdowns and 74 rushing yards, in addition to 4 receptions.
Even though 3 of the top 4 fantasy players stayed out of the starting lineups, those moves failed to compare to this week's Bonehead Manager Move of the Week. My husband committed the cardinal sin of fantasy football.
Yep, this is true. I had a complete brain fart and decided to rely on the silver and black to help my team out this week. I sat the Seattle defense, who came through with 17 fantasy points in their big win over Dallas, in favor of an Oakland Raiders defense that was playing against a terrible Miami Dolphins offense.
For his efforts, he was rewarded with -3 fantasy points, as the Raiders not only gave up 35 points, but managed only 1 sack with no turnovers. It's pretty damn difficult for a defense to score -3 points, as the lowest as you can possibly score is -4 points. But elite trash should never surprise you.
Yep, that was a bonehead move. Never rely on a Raider for help in fantasy football.
Never. After being publicly shamed of the first ever Bonehead Manager Move of the Week, the Holy Rollers manager Patrick Nicks was poised to climb out of the doghouse with a big win over yours truly.
There seems to be a theme developing with the Manager of the Week. They play you, honey.
All right, winning not my forte. I'll be changing my name this week.
The Holy Rollers had a season-high 160 points, with the top performance coming from Victor Cruz and his 39.9 points. Although his quarterback Tom Brady managed only 14.4 points, Patrick's lineup was solid all around, with every position, including defense and kicker, scoring at least 10 points.
Yeah, it's amazing what a full roster can do for you, huh, Patrick?
Stop hating and just congratulate this week's Manager of the Week, Holy Rollers.
I can't do that.
Well, you better get used to it, because I'm up next.
Yeah, that's right. There's going to be a domestic dispute in our household this week.
Well, we aren't the only ones, as CJ and Monique will also be squaring off in week 3.
49ers #1 baby will be playing the 0-2 Lucky Blues, as Serena looks for her first win, and the Dream Team will be facing the Lake Show.
And this week's Game of the Week will again feature Big Dog in the house, looking to stay undefeated against this week's top scorer, Holy Rollers.
We will see if Big Carl can take down the Manager of the Week for the second week in a row.
That'd be a pretty impressive 3-0 start for him.
So that wraps up the Week 2 show.
Good luck with your roster moves, and do your best to avoid doing next week's Bonehead Manager Move of the Week.
See you later.